What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Talk Sports with Jake. Hope we're all doing well. Let's get started on some MLB free agency moves that were made. We had an extension. The Athletics extend shortstop Jacob Wilson, 7 years, $70 million. Wilson had a brilliant rookie season, hit 311 for 355 on base, 800 OPS, 13 home runs, 63 RBIs, was the runner-up in the American League Rookie of the Year besides his teammate Nick Kurtz, the first baseman who had a crazy year last year. Jacob Wilson, the best hitting young infielders in the game, gets a long-term extension from the A's. A's done a bunch of their players as well. Also done it with Lawrence Butler, one of their outfielders, Brent Rooker, your DH, and now you do it with Jacob Wilson. It just doesn't make a whole lot of money for these guys, but you give a kid who's 23, 24 years old, 10 plus $1 million a year. If you can hit that market again when they're 30, it's very enticing. It gives them some long-term security. The White Sox bring in Austin Hayes a year for $6 million. This is a good move for the Chicago White Sox. Last year, Hayes had a good year in Cincinnati. In 103 games, hit 266, 15 home runs, 64 RBIs, 768 OPS. He's a very good outfielder. His breakout year was back in 2021 in Baltimore when he hit 256, 22 home runs, 71 RBIs, 769 OPS. He did a step back in 2022 at 250 with 16 and 60 and 719 OPS. A little bit better in 23, actually made the All-Star team. Hit 275, 16 and 67, 769 OPS. 2024 struggled a little bit at the plate between Baltimore and Philadelphia, but a better at the plate last year at Cincinnati. Going to be 30. He's a solid hitter and a very good outfielder. He goes to the White Sox on a one-year deal. They had quietly good offseason, adding Murakami. I assume he'll DH for them, or maybe he plays first or third. Could be a legit power threat coming over from Japan. You had Hayes to play the outfield. You added Seranthony Dominguez to close for you on a 2-year deal. So the White Sox, very few 100-loss seasons. They're not going to be good, but they could finally start really trending in the right direction. Maybe avoid 100-loss season finally. The San Francisco Giants making another move. Last week they brought in Harrison Bader on a 2-year deal. This time they bring in infielder Luis Arias a year for $12 million. Arias is a 3-time batting champion. He hit 316 in 2022 in Minnesota. He hit 354 in 23 in Miami. In 2024 between Miami and San Diego, he hit 314. Last year hit 292, 8 home runs, 61 RBIs for 719 OPS. So he's a guy who's, his numbers some of them don't jump off the page. Obviously not a whole lot of power. No more than 10 home runs in the season. He's never driven in 70 runs in the season. He's a 317 career on base guy. His on base for his career is 363, but it's not been above 346 the last 2 years. His career OPS is 777, 777. It's been over 800 twice in his career. That was in his rookie year in 2019 with Minnesota when it was 838, and it was 861 a couple years ago in Miami, his first year in Miami. Look, he's a great bat-to-ball hitter. He's led the league in hits 2 years in a row. Had 200 2 years ago. Last year, 181. Had 203 in 2023. Had over 170 in 2022. He's one of the best bat-to-ball hitters in the league. Even if he's not driving in a ton of runs, not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. Yes, he's not the biggest on-base guy anymore. He's not a great defender. That was kind of the holdup, why he took so long to get signed. He's been playing mainly first base and DH in San Diego the last year and a half. He wanted to return to second base, which he will be able to do so in San Francisco. It's going to be an ugly defensive side of the infield with him and Rafael Devers, but you have a guy in Devers who might hit 300 with 30 and 100, and a guy in Arias who will probably hit 300 and drive in 50, 60 runs, maybe hit 10 homers. So a solid bat is added by the San Francisco Giants. The Reds signed Eugenio Suarez a year for $15 million. Suarez reunites with the Reds. He played there for the bulk of his career from 2015 to 2021 for 7 seasons. Suarez last year had a very good year between Arizona and Seattle. Only hit 228, but did it 49 home runs. Also drove in 118 runs, 824 OPS. With Suarez, you know what you're getting. He's not going to have a whole lot of average. 246 career hitter in 12 years in the league. Only hit 228 last year. He's not a big on base guy, 328 for his career, was only 298 last year. And he's also not going to play a whole lot of defense. He's not a great third baseman defensively. He'll mainly DH for Cincinnati, but he might hit 40 home runs and 100 RBIs. He kind of screwed high on home runs last year with 49. He will strike out a lot. He had 196 Ks last year. Year before, 176. He's led the league in strikeouts 3 times. In 2019, he had 189 Ks. Had 196 in 22 and 23. He had 214. But he's a legit power bat in the middle of your lineup, despite the defensive concerns and the large strikeout numbers. He's a two-time All-Star for a reason. Suarez is a legit power bat, 40 homer threat that the Reds added to their lineup. And that was a desperate need for them. They had a veteran who's familiar with their organization, with some of the players, and they really needed the power bat, and they had that. So the Reds are a team that last year stuck into the playoffs, got a lot of young talent, especially pitching-wise. A lot of talent, especially on that infield. Have a chance to possibly go to the playoffs in back-to-back seasons. But we had a big trade that broke yesterday. The St. Louis Cardinals sent utility man Brendan Donovan to the Seattle Mariners. The Rays are also involved in this trade. Cardinals get 3 prospects. Starting pitcher Duran Halo Cliente. I hope I said that right. Outfielder Taj Pete and outfielder Colton Ledbetter. Rays get a reserve third baseman Ben Williamson in the deal. Let's talk about Brendan Donovan. Donovan, to me, is one of the more underrated players in all of baseball. Last year, hit 287, 10 homers, 50 RBIs with 775 OPS. He's a very solid hitter, and he's an excellent defender, can play all over the field. Looking at his career, his rookie year in 22, in 390 at-bats, hit 281, 5 homers, 45 RBI, 394 on base in 23. Injuries limited him to 95 games, but at 284, 11 and 34 in 24, hit 278, 14 and 73. Last year, injuries did limit him to 118 games, but he hit 287, 10 and 50. He's a big on base guy. He's got 360 career on base, so he doesn't strike out a lot. He draws a lot of walks. He's a solid hitter. Can play all over the field, good defender. He's a really good fit in Seattle. He will fill the Jorge Polanco role. Polanco's the guy, solid hitter. Played some second, played some third, DH'd a bit. And he's probably, Polanco's probably a better power hitter, but Donovan's probably a better bat-to-ball hitter. And Donovan's a much better defender with more versatility. He's a little bit younger as well. I think this is a really good trade for Seattle. He's a really good fit. If I had to guess, he will probably get the bulk leader second or third. We'll see what happens. I still have Donovan Canzone there. So we'll see what else Seattle does. But he'll definitely play a lot for the Mariners. It's a really good trade for them. As for the return that the St. Louis Cardinals got, let's start with Cliente, who is the pitcher. They're also going to get 2 draft picks in the trade, but isn't that big of a deal in baseball. They get Durangelo Cliente. I might not be pronouncing the last name. Well, I apologize. But last year was solid. Last year, 108 and a third innings between high A and double A. 120 strikeouts against 51 walks, 3.99 ERA. He was a first-round pick 2 years ago. The next piece in this deal was Taj Pete. He's an outfielder, he is a shortstop / outfielder. Last year, he was also a recent first-round pick. He went only hit 216 last year, so his batting average was 213 last year. Excuse me, but 19 home runs, had 25 steals, so he's got a lot of speed. Obviously, the batting average is very, very low, but first-round pick in 2023. He's got some power. He's very fast. Mainly a center fielder. He's very good defensively. And he's still 20 years old. Won't be 21 until August. So he's still very, very young. And then the other piece in this deal, they got an outfielder, was Colton Ledbetter. Also heads to the St. Louis Cardinals. He was a second-round pick in 2023. Last year at 265. 7 home runs, 37 steals. He's 24. He's mainly a center fielder. He did see 37 bases. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's a good base stealer for sure. Solid center fielder will probably fit better in a corner outfield. He does have some legit power. And he's already 24. He was in Double A last year, so he's a guy that could join the Mariners ball club at some point this season. And then Ben Williamson goes to Tampa. Williamson last year hit 253, just a home run, 21 RBIs, 677 OPS in 97 games in his rookie year. So he's still young, but for now he'll probably be a bench piece for the Tampa Bay Rays. But great move for the St. Louis Cardinals. For the Seattle Mariners. For Seattle's a decent return if you're St. Louis. And the Rays, it's good asset management picking up a younger player for you to evaluate. NFL coaching carousel. Let's start on the coordinator side of things. The Buffalo Bills hired Denver Broncos passing game coordinator Jim Leonhard to be their next defensive coordinator. I think it's a solid hire by the Buffalo Bills. Leonhard played safety in the NFL for a long time, mainly for the New York Jets. He was a DB's coach at University of Wisconsin, then jumped into the NFL. He was Denver's passing game coordinator defensively last year, and now he is a defensive coordinator for the Buffalo Bills. The Baltimore Ravens hired Declan Doyle as their offensive coordinator. Kind of hard to grade this one. He was the Bears' offensive coordinator last year. Not sure how much play calling duties he really had under Ben Johnson, but that's who Jesse Minter picked to be his offensive coordinator in Baltimore. Steelers brought in Patrick Graham to be their defensive coordinator. This hire is just kind of meh to me. This was what I was afraid of when the Steelers hired McCarthy. On top of you, obviously replaced the guy in Tomlin, who was kind of getting older and hasn't had any playoff success in about a decade. 9-10 wins every year, no playoff success. We have a guy in McCarthy who's 62 years old and has had little to no playoff success in a long time. Guy had prime Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, had some talented rosters in Dallas. Nothing to show for it for the most part since the Super Bowl win back in 2010. But he's going to bring in a lot of retreads to be on his staff, be his coordinators, and that's what Patrick Graham is. He's kind of bounced around the league. He was at the Giants briefly as a defensive coordinator. I think he was in Miami maybe. Bounced the Raiders the last 4 years. Granted, the Raiders defense, yes, it was very bad the last 2 years, but not a whole lot of talent outside of Max Crosby to work with. He'll have a little bit more talent in Pittsburgh, but still, that's an overrated unit. And this is just kind of an okay hire to me. The San Francisco 49ers have found a new defensive coordinator. They bring in Raheem Morris as their defensive coordinator. He's probably a downgrade from Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, but he is a solid defensive coordinator, much better defensive coordinator. He's a head coach for whatever that's worth. Solid hire for the 49ers. The Miami Dolphins hire Sean Duggan to be their defensive coordinator. Jeff Hafley plucks another Green Bay assistant from his old staff in Green Bay to join his staff in Miami as he is the head coach there, of course. Sean Duggan was their linebackers coach in Green Bay. He is now the defensive coordinator. And their quarterback coach, of course, Sean Mannion, he took to be his offensive coordinator. So most of the staff he took with him. So we'll see what Green Bay does with the rest of their staff. But Sean Duggan, now the defensive coordinator in Miami. The Baltimore Ravens hire Anthony Weaver to be their defensive coordinator. It's a solid hire. He was, I think, the D-line coach at one point in Baltimore before getting the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator job 2 years ago. He was okay as the DC in Miami. He returns to Baltimore. I think him and Minter may have crossed paths when Minter was in Baltimore from 17 to 20. And he gets another defensive coordinator job back with the Ravens, where he was a defensive line coach before going to Miami. The Titans hire Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. I think that's a good hire. Very good defensive coordinator. He was never a good head coach. He was brutal in Jacksonville as a head coach, but he was the defensive coordinator in Seattle for a little bit. Right before Dan Quinn took over, before he went to Jacksonville. He's been defensive coordinator around the league in Indianapolis. He was pretty good there, and he was on the Niners staff as an defensive assistant. Now he joins the Titans as their defensive coordinator. That is who Robert Saleh picks to be his defensive coordinator. Though Saleh will be calling the defensive plays. I'm not sure what role Gus Bradley will really play. And the Denver Broncos hire Ravens run game coordinator Travis Switzer as their offensive coordinator. That's who Todd Monken picks. He's been with the Ravens since 2017. He became an offensive quality control coach in 2021 for 3 seasons. In the last 2 years, he has been their run game coordinator. Look, he's done a pretty good job. So it's not a bad hire. Obviously, Monken was the OC the last 2 years, so he's familiar with Switzer. He is his offensive coordinator in Cleveland. And this came out not too long ago, earlier today. The New York Giants have hired Matt Nagy to be their offensive coordinator. This one I don't understand. Matt Nagy is a bum. Whenever he hasn't had Andy Reid, in his prime, standing next to him, the guy's been terrible. He didn't do a whole lot in Philadelphia with Andy. He hasn't done much in Kansas City with Andy. He's been terrible the last 2 years. He's ruined Pat Mahomes the last 2 years. He was a brutal head coach in Chicago. I don't understand. I get the guy you originally picked, Todd Monken, leaves last minute to be a head coach in Cleveland. And they were looking at some other guys. They were looking at Cliff Kingsbury. They were looking at actually Brian Callahan, former Titans head coach. He was OC in Cincinnati before getting the Titans head coach job a couple years ago. You land on Matt Nagy. I'm sorry, that's a terrible hire. Terrible, terrible, terrible hire. Don't like him working with a young quarterback in Jackson Dara. I think it's a very concerning hire for the New York Giants. The head coach side of things, it appears we have had all 10 openings finally filled. The Las Vegas Raiders are set to hire Clint Kubiak as their next head coach. Won't be finalized throughout the Super Bowl, of course, but that's who it's going to be. This is a very good hire for the Raiders. Kubiak's one of the more bright offensive minds in the game. He has to work with, it looks like, incoming rookie quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. They got some young offensive talent on that team, from Ashton Genty, Brock Bowers, even Trey Tucker's a very talented receiver. He had a good year last year. This past season, Jack Beck isn't bad. Michael Mayer's another tight end that you have. I think it's a very good hire. I think he fits what the Raiders are looking for. And the Arizona Cardinals hire Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur as their head coach. Now, I don't know if LaFleur's qualified to be a head coach. Of course, he's Matt's brother, the head coach of Green Bay's brother. He's bounced around the league. He was an OC in Tennessee briefly, then was the OC for the Jets for 2 years under Robert Saleh. He's a close friend of Robert Saleh's. Overall wasn't great. Gets fired. Been the Rams OC the last 2 years. Has done a decent job, however, again, not sure how much play calling duties he had under Sean McVay. But considering how late they hired in this cycle, Arizona, this is probably the best case scenario of bringing him in. They have some young offensive talent. Marvin Harrison, we all thought was a generation talent coming out. We haven't seen it yet. Michael Wilson, Trey McBride will thrive in his offense. They can get a better running game. They'll be a lot better suited. Quarterback is probably either going to be like a Kobe Brissett again or something like that. Probably looking at a lost year next year for Arizona, but this isn't the worst hire in the world considering the circumstances. And before we move on to the next segment, it was announced earlier today, Robert Kraft, the longtime New England Patriots owner, 6-time Super Bowl champion, did not make the Hall of Fame. Look, Kraft obviously is a Hall of Fame caliber owner. However, he's got off the field issues. His football team has, been caught in some cheating scandals. That's why Bill Belichick didn't get in with some Spygate to Deflategate, some other stuff. Robert Kraft also has some monthly issues of his own with the weird stuff with some massage therapists a few years ago. So he definitely rubbed some people the wrong way. So he's not in the Hall of Fame quite yet. Let's start with some basketball. Paul George has been suspended 25 games for violating the anti-drug policy. Apparently, he took something mistaken when he was rehabbing from his injury. I don't buy it. Guys say stuff like that all the time when they get caught for steroids. But this is a big loss for Philly. They're starting to play some good basketball, and Embiid is actually healthy and playing well. Maxi's been great. VJ Edgecombe might be win Rookie of the Year, and now you lose Paul George for a good portion of the rest of the season. So big loss for them. We have a 3-team trade. The Sacramento Kings get DeAndre Hunter from the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks get Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder from the Sacramento Kings. The Chicago Bulls get Dario Saric and 2 second-round picks. So this is a very good trade for Atlanta. I don't get it from the Kings. DeAndre Hunter is a weird player. If I were to build a wing in today's NBA in a lab, it would look a lot like DeAndre Hunter. However, if you watch his games, he's not very efficient. He's only averaging 14 points a game here, which is just fine. That's about in line with his career average. He's only shooting 30% from 3 this year. He's not a great defender. He doesn't play make a whole lot. So he's just a fine wing to have on your team. As for Keanu Ellis, his numbers don't jump off the page, but he hasn't got a lot of playing time with Sacramento. I think he's a really talented player, very good three-point shooter, excellent defender, still 26 years of age. Schroeder's a solid backup point guard, obviously older player, been around the league a lot, been traded 8 times in his career, but solid backup point guard. He's a better backup point guard, for sure, for the Atlanta Hawks than whatever they have right now. And for the Bulls, you pick up a roster filler at two second round picks. So I think Atlanta definitely wins this trade. I know their wings have been demonstrating you trade, one of your best ones. But I think Keanu has a higher ceiling than DeAndre Hunter, and you add a depth piece in Schroeder. As for the Kings, don't really understand, especially considering Hunter deals after next year. If they flip him maybe for some picks, this could look a little better for them. But for right now, don't understand it from Sacramento's perspective. Like it a lot from Atlanta's perspective. In tennis, the Australian Open ends. On the women's side, Raya Benka, the fifth best player in the world, beats Arina Sabalenka to win her first ever Australian Open and the second ever major. Sabalenka's troubles in the finals of these tournaments continue. Raya Benka, the fifth best player in the world, Shinoma, the third best player in the world, she picks up a phenomenal win. And Carlos Alcaraz defeats Novak Djokovic in the Australian Open. Carlos Alcaraz is now a Grand Slam champion at 22 years old. Absolutely incredible. He is the next great tennis player for sure. The guy is just incredible. Novak Djokovic remains with 24 Grand Slams for his career. That is tied for the most ever. And we'll talk some wrestling before we close this thing out. Before we get into the Royal Rumble on Monday Night Raw, Ava Ray announced that she is leaving WWE. She announced that right before the Royal Rumble. This is good news. By the way, this is The Rock's daughter in real life, but I guess the performer gene missed her when she was born because she is bland as a Band-Aid. She is terrible. Not sure when this NXT general manager will be. Everyone wants William Regal back. Doubt that happens. I know there's been some crazy ones online. People predicting maybe Kevin Owens while he's injured or Chris Jericho coming back. But most likely it'll probably be Robert Stone, which I don't think is a bad pick. I think he could do a good job. Let's talk about the Royal Rumble. In the Women's Royal Rumble, Liv Morgan wins the Royal Rumble, obviously giving her a World Championship opportunity at WrestleMania. This was absolutely the right winner. They've been building towards her since she got injured back in June it was, or July. Liv Morgan absolutely deserved this. One of the best talents in wrestling. She wins the Royal Rumble. However, the match could have been better. The Brie Bella coming back was cool, but that was really the only true surprise. No Bianca Belair. I don't know how injured she is. It's only broken finger. It happened at WrestleMania last year. But no AJ Lee. We could have had some more NXT like Blake Monroe in the match. Didn't happen. The only true surprises were, you had some NXT superstars, which was cool. Like Soruka had an incredible performance. She looked great. She's going to be the next great women's star. She entered that 10. She was she got third place in this Rumble. You had from NXT, Seth J.C. Jane, who was the current NXT Women's Champion in it. Columbia Jordan's also an NXT superstar. And then I like Columbia Jordan. I would have rather Blake Monroe in this match, or even Tatum Paxley or Izzy Dane. Like Tiffany Stratton at 30 is boring. No one likes her. And other than that, it was just very. Oh, and then Lola Vice at 6 was cool. But they eliminated Becky Lynch way too early. By the way, it was very funny, her not handing the title to Jessica Carr. Like last night, had a nice performance. It was cool seeing Liv eliminate Raquel, obviously the Bella twins reuniting, but kind of a boring Rumble, but the correct winner. Gunther defeats AJ Styles, ending AJ Styles' career. Thank you to AJ Styles, one of the best in-ring wrestlers of all time. Speculation, maybe he goes back to TNA or something because he didn't take his gloves off at the end of the match, but he is done with WWE. I do think he will officially retire. Gunther claims another career in the form of AJ Styles. I think his gimmick is kind of stupid, but he defeats AJ Styles. We had Drew McIntyre easily beating Sami Zayn to retain the WWE Championship. Decent match. This was the right move. Send Sami Zayn back to the mix where he belongs. Tired of every promo being him screaming at the fans, I'm the best wrestler in the world, one of the best in the world. I'm going to finally win the World Championship, and then he falls flat on his face. Enough. He's also a whiny bitch, so I'm tired of him. The Men's Royal Rumble ends with Roman Reigns winning his second ever Rumble, first in 2015, and he would advance to WrestleMania with a world title shot. This men's Rumble was maybe the second worst ever besides 2022 when Brock and Ronda Rousey won the men's and women's Rumble. Roman Reigns, really? How boring is that? By the way, Roman Reigns, he is a complete asshole. I don't care what anybody says. Okay, he is not greatness. There's no greatness with this guy. He's just an arrogant douchebag. Okay, this guy never shows up for work. Goes on the McAfee show the day before the Rumble, the day of the Rumble, and says, "Oh, we haven't created new stars. We haven't made any progress in the last 2 years. But it took you 6 years to freaking get over. Okay, but everyone else has to do it within 2 years. No, shut up." And then he goes and steals a Rumble from a guy like an Olafemi or a young star like that by winning it. Just absolutely pathetic, and having a random masked man attack Braun Breaker to eliminate him first in the Rumble after he was number 2 was stupid, especially after that hilarious segment between Heyman and Pierce on the pre-show. Olafemi had a great performance from 1, but then once he got eliminated, it all went downhill. No Carmelo Hayes in the match, no Dom Mysterio in the match, no there's a couple other guys who were in it. No Finn Balor in the match. La Parker was in it, who no one knows who he is. Mr. Iguana was in it. And I like Mr. Iguana. He's funny. But really, over those 3 I just named, give me a break. Just so freaking stupid. You had 2 El Grandes in the match. Like, what are we doing with Chad Gable? LA Knight came back with a huge pop. He gets eliminated by Cody and by Cody Rhodes. You had Jesus do 3 separate entrances, 3 stupid run-it backs. You had Brock Lesnar no-sell Dragunov's chop, which was pathetic, and then he eliminates him, and then Brock gets eliminated by Cody and LA Knight. While Jay's doing his entrance, just an absolute disaster. Just freaking terrible. Gunther was number 3, which is boring as hell. He was the runner-up for no reason. Logan Paul was in the Final 4, which is just disgusting. There was not enough surprises. Surprises were Mr. Iguana. Freaking the old El Grande, which was stupid. Royce Keys was nice for Powerhouse Hobbs in AEW. That was cool. La Parka, no one knows who the guy is. And that's really it. Like, it was so freaking stupid. And a horrendous Rumble with a horrendous winner. But Monday Raw was last night. Overall, a success for all. Started with Braun Breaker being very angry. He flipped over the announce table. And then called out Adam Pearce. And Pearce came out, and called out his performance at the Raw Rumble. And then LA Knight came out. And he attacked Logan Paul and Austin Theory. So that was how the Rumble opened. Then we had Javon Evans against El Grande Americano. With help from the other El Grande Americano, Javon Evans picked up the win. Very good match. Javon Evans is so good, man. He's going to be a great talent for a very long time. Then Gunther's promo, I will say, I'm not a huge fan, but him doing the AJ entrance was really freaking funny. Then Dragon Lee attacks him, but he ends up getting put in 2 chokeholds and passing out. Gunther continues to wreak havoc. Then we see the Warriors in the ring. They can go to it's going to be a tag team match. Then Olafemi comes out. That's where he demolishes them too for his Raw debut. He looked great. He is the future of WWE. That was some very good presentation. The Bella Twins are back. I felt like I was in 2012 again, seeing Brie and Nikki Bella back. And it looks like they're going after the Women's Tag Team Championships. Kind of a boring segment. I don't think really anybody cares anymore. You had Penta against Bronson Reed. Penta picked up the win with the help from LA Knight. We thought he was been sent out of the building after Heyman and Pierce had that running backstage. But obviously he wasn't. Penta ends up stealing the win in an okay match, I would say, with Bronson Reed. Of course, Bronson was who injured him a couple of months ago. Then Dermy Dom finally returned, and he welcomed Liv Morgan to the ring, and she celebrated her Rumble win. Then she brought out Raquel Rodriguez. Raquel was like, why'd you eliminate me from the Rumble? And Liv was like, oh, sister, it's not like that. We got to do what's best for Judgment Day. And she's like, you know what? You agree. So that was a fun promo. And then Stephanie Vaquer came out to a new theme song that is so terrible and so generic. How do you freaking Def Rebel, the women's world heavyweight champion, in the middle of her reign. So stupid. However, the street fight between her and Raquel Rodriguez was fantastic. Liv tried to get involved, even though Raquel told her not to. Didn't work. Roxanne Perez tried to get involved. Didn't work. Raquel retained. She is still the women's world champion. This was the right move. I never understood why people want to put it on Raquel. She's just not the talent of that Vaquer is. Liv versus Vaquer should be the end game of WrestleMania. Then Roman Reigns cut a promo with CM Punk, where he picks CM Punk, and they will go head to head for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. I mean, the promo was very good, and the match I'm sure will be great, but just so boring. It's lazy booking. No one wants to see Roman Reigns and CM Punk at this point, and boring, 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 boring. All right, that's all we got for you guys today. Until next time, so long, and have a great day.